Finally, I mentioned how, and I'm sorry to rush through this, but I don't have a lot of time left, but I mentioned how there is no architecture in the colonial section, although architecture is very important. So I was glad when Rebecca Stone at least added in the indigenous section what are the remains of the Inca temple, the Coricancha, because on top of what was the foundation of that temple is a Catholic church, the Church of Santo Domingo. So you teach this in the indigenous section, but you can also bring it into the colonial section to talk about architecture. And because this is much earlier, I mean, the Inca stone building is renowned. You know, they built these really solid structures out of stone. Some of these are monumental in size. And this is known to have been the location for what was the Coricancha, or the primary Inca temple dedicated to their sun god. Okay? And descriptions of the original Inca temple are quite stunning. They describe the temple as being covered in gold. The walls were covered in gold. Of course, all of this gold was removed, and the building was eventually torn down. And then they built this church. It's the church or convent of Santo Domingo in Cusco, which was the capital of the Inca Empire. So now we have like this kind of hybrid building, you know, very different architectural sensibilities kind of just smashed together. You have this kind of Catholic church that is reminiscent, you know, of European architectural design for churches, you know, kind of placed right on top of this base that was originally for the Inca temple. And what's interesting about this is that we have a church on top of what was already a sacred space. And we find that the Spanish do this a lot in the colonial period, and it seems to be an extension of the Reconquest that happened in Spain when the Muslims were kicked out, in that when the Muslims were expelled, Catholics reused pre-existing mosque sites. They either repurposed mosques into Catholic churches, or they tore down mosques and built Catholic churches on the very same sites. They do the same thing in the Americas. For example, in central Mexico, a lot of the churches are built on sites where there were temples. They knock down the temples and build the mission churches. You know, in some cases you can see the pedestal and the pyramid, the church is on top of that.
I linked that to even the Parthenon.
Yeah.
The Parthenon was converted to a Christian church, and
Yeah.
the mosque was built in the middle. And then
Yeah, and Hagia Sophia as well. Yeah. Yeah, and so like this architectural structure, I don't know if Rebecca really goes into that detail, but it's a great way to kind of bring in these other works into some kind of comparative analysis. Yeah. So the Spanish did this in the Iberian Peninsula during the Reconquest, and they do this in the Americas again. So this is like a pattern of colonization where they maintain the same sort of valences, symbolic valences of spaces. Yeah.
Is it all like a way to pacify the local? Like, I wonder if they said, and this is still a, I mean, obviously many of them would see it as offensive, but this is also religious.
It's
continually a sacred.
Yeah, that line of thought I think is correct. Okay. It's along those lines, yeah. They're preserving the same valences in the space that were there before. It's like what happened in Mexico City. The Aztec main temple is torn down, and the same material from the temple is used to build the foundations for the new cathedral right next to it. So it's in the same location, made out of the same material. You know, there's like a strategy at work there.
Could we make the same connection with Rome and the Basilica of Constantine?
Sure. Yeah.
The emperor being replaced with the
Yeah, there are multiple examples throughout history around the world that can be compared to this. Yeah, so I know Rebecca's interest is primarily in the base. What are the remains of the temple? But from a colonial perspective, we can bring in these other questions, which really sound really interesting to me. I think the students might find that of interest. Yeah.